In this episode, Teaching Teachers.
From the Heart of Paradise, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Matt, and as always, we have the team in the studio helping to produce the show. Today, a show, obviously teaching teachers, but it's more about supporting teachers and helping them be the best versions of themselves to impact that student success.
Yeah, and I think that, one thing that I want to put out there, because I'm a teacher, as you know, or former teacher, is it's a very difficult job. It's not as easy as people think. It's a lot of adults are like, oh, I'm very knowledgeable about things. But being knowledgeable doesn't mean you can get the information to students and that they can retain it. On top of all of the teaching, you have to worry about attendance, sick kids, lunches, recess, lining up, fire drills. You're performing all day. When I say performing, you're up in front of kids and you have to be ready to go, smiling, happy. You're thrilled to be at work every day.
And then trying to hit at each student's way of learning best so they can retain the information. I was lucky enough as a child, I grew up in an elementary school in a little bit different way than a lot of kids do because my mom was a teacher. So before school and after school on weekends and summers, I was at an elementary school putting up bulletin boards and watching teachers getting prepared for the school year. And it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And some of that work is made better by support because you can't obviously do it on your own.
Yeah, you really can't. And speaking of that, we have our support professionals here today. First up on the podcast, we have Sally Henzel, who is a pro dev specialist. Hi, Sally. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
So you are part of the department that provides a lot of that support to teachers.
Yeah, absolutely. The professional development department really focuses on the retention of teachers and the support of teachers through mentors, instructional coaching, and the professional development that we provide our teachers and ESPs throughout the district as well.
We want to talk to you specifically about the Center for Teacher Development. I think we did a segment last year where we went out and filmed a teacher who was a part of this. But talk to the viewer who doesn't know what it is.
Well, the Center for Teacher Development is like my favorite part of my job because it is entirely unique. You will not find this anywhere else. And so what we have, in fact, are 9 demonstration teachers currently in the district who have really high-powered cameras in their classrooms. Because what PV teachers tell us over and over again is we want to see PV teachers teach our curriculum, our students. And so the level of support that's provided when you can turn on a camera and literally break down those classroom walls and become the fly on the wall and see what's happening in these classrooms, it's so powerful. Not only are teachers gaining tools in their toolbox, but it also can be such a validating experience when they're like, oh, it's not just me. Right?
Yeah, and I had the opportunity to, again, sit in with you, I think a year ago, and it was pretty cool, Matt. They have, again, the high-powered cameras, so a teacher's teaching a lesson, and there are other teachers here at the district in a room, and they're watching these teachers do the lessons, interact with kids, and then what's great is Sally will stop and she might narrate or say, hey, look what she did there. Notice what happened with this student. And it's just really helpful to connect those dots.
And I guess the alternative would be we could have new teachers or these teachers who are learning whatever process you're focusing on. They could go visit those classrooms, but I imagine that way would create such a huge disruption.
Yes, what I found is, last year we had 302 visitors, and I didn't think I was going to beat that, but I'm already at 190, so I think I might get close. We cannot have that many visitors inside our classrooms. We want it to be as an organic experience as possible. And so we do get to virtually go into these classrooms, see what's happening live, which can be, like I said, incredibly powerful for teachers to see what real teachers are doing in our district.
And I have to imagine that when that lesson's over, at the end of a session, again, you'll take the time to meet now with the teachers in the room, and you'll debrief, you'll talk about how things went, and then you're giving kind of next steps, correct?
Absolutely. We have a pre and post observation form that engages our demonstration teacher with our visitors. And what we found is we have great success by kind of packaging visits. Maybe we're looking at primary specifically. Maybe we're looking at secondary math or sixth grade specifically. So we're really targeting very specific groups. So when we bring in these teachers, we kind of already have like this really distinct focus for what we want to be looking at. And we often engage in Google Meet debriefs with the demonstration teachers, which is so powerful for teachers. They can, ask questions. Teachers are always making very subtle choices throughout a lesson. We can't get into their heads. So when we debrief with them, they're like, oh, okay, that's why she did that. And, I want to try that in my classroom tomorrow. And they do.
So we talked about high-powered cameras in the classroom, and I do want to set one thing straight. This isn't like a live stream on YouTube, right? This is very closed off and private, meant for professional development of our own staff.
I know how to access the cameras. My AV guy from IT knows how to access the cameras, and that's about it. And that is very important that this is very protected. I can't even access this outside of the PV Wi-Fi, and there's no recording capabilities too. As parents provide permission and really understand that their child's teacher must be pretty special if they're willing to put a camera in their room, that our PV community and parents trust that our professional discourse is just that we are focused on excellent teaching and how to make sure that all of our PV teachers have the support they need to be exceptional.
Talking about those PV teachers, this obviously is a recruitment opportunity because this isn't something that all teachers would have access to. Sounds like a really cool way to learn, but it's also part of retention as well, I would imagine, because it's providing that support.
100%. So you might have teachers who come and they're like, I just don't really feel like maybe I'm doing the best job. Maybe this isn't for me. And then they come and they're inspired and they try new things. We also have great partnerships with Arizona Christian University as well as PVCC, where we bring in pre-service teachers and they watch and they're amazed and they decide to come student teach in Paradise Valley because of that level of support we provide, not only in professional development, but specifically with the Center for Teacher Development.
That is so impressive. And again, I just wish I had something like this when I first started teaching as well. Before we go, is there anything else you want to share with our viewer in regard to the Center for Teacher Development, to new teachers, to recruiting, or to teachers we currently have in the district?
Yes, like I said, I have 190 visitors as of today, and the Center for Teacher Development is not just for newer teachers. It's not for teachers who are struggling. I do have my frequent flyers. They'll email me and say, Sally, I heard you have a new 8th grade teacher. I must see this teacher teach. As a 12th grade English teacher by heart, I have learned so much from the kindergarten teacher, from our 1st grade teacher. And so I ask that any PV teacher who would love to come and see the Center for Teacher Development, regardless of the years of experience and what you think you might gain, please reach out because I learn something every time I turn the camera on.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for what you do to support teachers as we guide students on their journey of excellence.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
That's really cool. I think back to every job that I've ever had and how sped up that onboarding process or just the learning process could be if you could watch someone who's like at the top of their game and learn from them.
Well, I think it's just so unique and special too. If you think about a job kind of in the corporate world, but you just basically not teaching, you might go into your office, your cubicle, and you're just kind of figuring out the day, and people come to you and they train you and teach you, not teaching. Day one, you go into the classroom and there's a bunch of, 25 plus kids all looking at you, and you are the only person to make the decision about what's going to happen that day. So it's kind of intimidating. And but we are very fortunate, again, to have these amazing support staff and teachers, and we are really lucky here in PV.
It's not just the Center for Teacher Development. It's not just that kind of professional development that we have for support for teachers. We also have a mentorship program.
We do. We have new teacher mentor programs and just teacher mentors. And coming on the podcast today is Dr. Ivy Violette, who is an elementary teacher mentor. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So for someone who might not know what a teacher mentor is, what would you say? How would you describe it?
Well, a teacher mentor in our district, we service first and second year teachers. We focus on personalized professional growth for those teachers. We'll go in their classrooms, observe, we'll meet with them and talk to them about where are their needs, what are their goals. And with observations, we do non-evaluative observations with them so that they're comfortable knowing that we're there just to support them in their growth. And then with our mentor program as well, we also have professional development that we provide after school for our first year teachers. We meet with them 6 times a year. And then with our second year teachers, we meet with them 4 times a year. And at those professional developments, we provide information on anything they might need: district policies, curriculum, parent-teacher conferences, anything that the teachers might need. We even evaluate them and ask them with exit tickets, hey, what do you guys want? What do you need? So we can then focus our instruction on what exactly they want.
So it sounds very interactive. Can you dive a little bit deeper into that? Give us an example of something that you might work on with a teacher who's just starting out. Again, curriculum, is it a math lesson? Is it working with students and behaviors in the classroom? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, we kind of do all of that. I think in the very beginning of the year, the focus really is on classroom management, what it's like to have a classroom of your own versus when they come out of student teaching, it's always with somebody else in the room or someone else supporting them. So we'll start off really with that classroom management. What's it like to be a teacher, dealing with parents and all that good stuff. And then once teachers are comfortable and they're confident in their classroom management, we'll then move into working with them on diving deeper into curriculum, lesson planning, pacing of lessons, and things like that. And then, of course, everything else that comes with it: assessment, data, learning how to do small groups, engagement, all those good things.
You said what it's like to be a teacher, and that made me think that I suppose as you're going to school and becoming a teacher, it's a little bit different when you're the teacher who's in charge of the class, and how nice it must be to have kind of some support behind you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know you mentioned in the very beginning about, all the other things, attendance and, sick kids and sending homework home and all of that. So we as mentors will go in and we'll support those teachers figuring out all that and just brainstorming, being a thinking partner and knowing that they just have someone that's behind them to support them.
Well, I love how you said it's not a part of their evaluation. It's just kind of an open, friendly conversation. It's a dialogue and really problem solving. Can you talk to us about how does this help with teacher retention? How are we finding that this is helping keep teachers in the classroom?
With our program, we have currently 5 mentors, 2 elementary mentors. We have about 70 teachers that we work with. And then we have 2 middle school, high school mentors, and they have, I think, probably about 50 teachers. And then we have a special ed mentor also, and she works with about 30 teachers. And I feel like that specialized part of it, they have a person that they can depend on and talk to and just feel confident in what they're doing. And I think that helps with teacher retention. Once you're like, okay, I've got people behind my back. I've got people here that are going to support me. And as Sally said, with the CTD and, the AVID that's going to speak next and all of our instructional coaches, I think when the teachers have that support, they feel that and they know that. And not every district is as lucky as us to have that mentor support. Some teachers are just thrown in the classroom and here you go ahead, try it on your own. So it's kind of nice that they have us to depend on.
Yeah, we really are lucky here in Paradise. And kind of like I just asked Sally, is there anything else you want to get out there to the viewer, to teachers, anyone watching that you just think is very important for them to know?
For new teachers or people that are looking to become educators, I think Paradise Valley is a great place because of the support that you get. There are so many opportunities and so many people that are there that want you to succeed and value your success. So I think that that's just really important.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today, talking about teacher mentors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For more information or to watch a video on teacher mentors, you can visit PVSchools.net. Next, Sarah, we have it's kind of hinted at, AVID is coming up. It's a program within our district that is super helpful to a lot of students, and I'm excited to learn more about it.
Yeah, it really prepares our students for kind of the college readiness throughout this whole AVID system. And today we're going to talk to someone who is an AVID coordinator, and she specializes in working with the students and making sure, and teachers, I should say, and making sure that they're really getting what they need to help our students for their college readiness. We have Rachael Spier on the podcast. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So for anyone who isn't aware of what AVID is, explain that. What's the program about, and why would a student want to be part of it?
Well, that's a really great question. So AVID actually stands for Achievement via Individual Determination, and it's actually a K-12 system that we have implemented at 11 of our PVSchools. We've got 6 elementary, 2 middle school, and 3 high schools that are, again, implementing this. And really what the goal of it is to close achievement gaps so that some of our kids who might be a first generation looking to go to college as a first generation college goer have the tools that they need to be successful. So we're navigating, especially at the elementary level, some really basic academic as well as executive functioning skills so that when they go up to the middle school level and they can apply to be in the elective class, they've kind of got that framework. They've got that like basic understanding of what you need in order to be successful as a student. And then going in, like looking ahead for college and career, we've already kind of like thought about what that might look like. So then when they're in 7th grade in PVSchools, that's where we start the AVID elective, they can then participate in tutorials, which happens actually, and that's 7th through 12th grade during the elective class. And that's where they can take a point of confusion from an outside class, an academic class, and then bring it into the elective where they work with collaborative study groups to kind of like work through that problem. The students who are participating in that with them are just supposed to ask Socratic sort of questions. So they're not giving them the answer, they're helping them find the answer for themselves. We're going back and we're referencing our focus notes. We're going back and we're referencing our source material. And then if we can't figure out the resolution to the point of confusion from that, we know where to go to dig deeper. We've got resources. We've got tutors that can come in and help us from the VIP program. Depending on the school, some of them have used them, some of them don't. But it's a really great resource for students to be able to learn how to learn for themselves and to be prepared for what it looks like to be able to graduate and then go into some sort of post-secondary track, whether that's through like a CTE sort of program, or if that's community college or a 4-year university. We're making sure that those kiddos are set up for success.
And I would imagine, much like any specialized program, there is a teacher aspect of that as well, where maybe they need a different kind of support because it's its own environment, right?
Exactly. So, generally what I kind of say is just AVID is good teaching. Good teaching is good teaching. But AVID provides kind of like a toolbox for teachers so that there's a framework. So I try to say, well, I do say that when I'm in trainings, if you can use WICOR, which stands for Writing, Inquiry, Collaboration, Organization, and Reading, WICOR. If you can use all 5 of those elements in your lesson planning throughout the week, check. You're on track. So as we're lesson planning, and if we see, there's an element that's missing, maybe I need a little bit more practice here, or I need some more tools or some more resources or even collaboration. That's the beautiful thing about being a teacher at an AVID school is you have a plethora of support and resources to help kind of like look at what your current practice is, and it can be good, but what can we do to bring it to the next level? And that's where professional development comes in. So, we can have support at the site level, but also, school-wide, system-wide, or even district-wide, not just at the school level. They have the access to virtual trainings, in the past, we've gone to Summer Institute. We can do on-site AVID professional learning modules that are really selected based off of what the needs of the teachers are at that site, at that time. So it's very responsive to what the teacher needs are.
Early on, you really caught my attention when you mentioned the executive functioning skills, and kind of, for the person who's watching and they might not know what that is, I think that's great that that's part of this program as well. Can you speak to that a little bit more? Because I think a lot of people assume success just comes from intelligence, smarts, learning it. and they forget the organization, the time management, and having those skills. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yep, I certainly can, because that is one of my close to my heart sort of parts of the system is that, say, let's look at O, specifically within that wicker. Organization means we're organizing not just our backpacks, not just, our binders, but we're also organizing our time and we're organizing our thoughts. So when we're preparing students to be able to apply for college, we have to look at what does their entire day look like, not just what does their backpack look like. Do they know how to set up a study space? Do they know how to even practice things like technology hygiene? Are we going to sleep at a specific time every night? Do you have a certain amount of time away from your screens? What are the things that you need to do as an individual and to take accountability for that personal success with your time, your resources, and your thoughts? Something else I also would like to say is that with focused note-taking and the 5 phases of focused note-taking, if you're interested in learning more about that, reach out to me. But that is something where you're not just taking the information and writing it down. It's what do I do with that information? So how do I process it? How do I break it down into its constituent parts? How do I make all those parts come back together to make sense? So when students kind of have that sort of training and then they go into their own study space at home, they now have both the tools to do physically what they need to do in an organized physical space, but they also have that mental organization so that when they study, they're studying effectively, not just busy work.
I love that.
Well, is there anything we haven't talked about in AVID that is important to the viewer? I know some parents and guardians might be hearing about AVID for the first time. What's the pitch? How do they find out more information?
So to learn more about AVID, you can go to PVSchools.net.
Yes.
I was going to say it is not .edu or .com, .net. And then if you go to programs, there's actually a drop down where there's a specific place for AVID. So it talks about what AVID is, what we do. And then you can also kind of preview, we've got applications. So if you're at an AVID school that's elementary, it's school-wide. And then as we get up to middle school and high school, it continues to be school-wide, but because there's an AVID elective, there's actually an application process for students that want to join that elective and hopefully continue with it all the way through graduation. So we really kind of develop a cohort that sticks together, they work together, they build their experiences together. And if you're interested in starting that at the 7th grade level, you can apply either at Shea or at Greenway Middle School, and the application is there on that website as well.
Oh my gosh, you have been a wealth of information. I want to thank you so much, not just to you, but also to Ivy and to Sally for coming on the podcast today, and to their department, of course, for supporting all of our teachers, our staff, and our student success.
And with that, Sarah, that has been our professional development focused episode. So that's the podcast. For more information on the many journeys of excellence, visit www.pvschools.net.
And as always, support the pod by rating us on Apple and Spotify and sharing new episodes on the social media platform of your choice.
You can also find PV Schools on social media by searching at PV Schools. Make sure to support student success by liking, commenting, and sharing.
Bye.